What's up, guys? It's me once again. Today I'm going to be talking about the reports on state attorney on sick leave for 7 years with full pay and benefits. 7 solid years. Listen to this.
All right, let's go to this conversation now. A state attorney staff member in Cape Town has reportedly been on sick leave for about 7 years now with a full salary and benefits. It's believed that the employee is said to be too sick to report for duty, but some of the reports are claiming that some of her colleagues have seen her on holidays and also spotted her shopping. Let's get more details on what exactly is going on here with Ruben Malika, who is the PSA spokesperson. Thank you so much, Ruben, for your time this evening. Are these reports true? 7 year sick leave?
Good evening, bonjour, good evening to the viewers at home. Yes, indeed, it is accurate information that one of the employees who is working in the state attorney office has been on quite a number of years on sick leave. We know very well that the public services. Yes, that we know very well that the public service is very well regulated, and in terms of temporary incapacity leave, in terms of process how to apply for early retirement from the public service. And we also would not forget Section 17, which is an automatic termination of abscondment, that if an employee is absent from work for more than 30 days consecutive in the public service, the employer has got the full right to terminate. But this is a different matter. This is a different matter where this particular member has been, in fact, applying for temporary incapacity leave. And we know that currently the public service has got service providers who have to have a duty to look at any application that has been made. And in this case, an application was made, and to date, there's not been any outcome. The member went further to request for early retirement, and to date, there's not been a response.
So, okay.
Wow. This is mind-blowing. Look at how they are chowing our money as taxpayers, all under the watch of the African National Congress. Departments at provincial level, at national level, are run by incompetent employees of the African National Congress. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but there's very few exceptions to the rule. Think about this, what the law requires when it comes to the type of leave this person, the incapacity leave. When an employee has not been to work for a certain period of time, then as he rightfully pointed out, 30 days, that's regarded as abscondment if you did not report. But if you are sickly, normally it's about 188 days in a year. If you have been sick for that long, then it goes to, and I know this because one of my ex-colleagues who passed on from cancer, at the time I worked for the public service, they reached a point where they couldn't give him days anymore. Was still alive. He had utilized the 188 days which you get, and then after that it becomes an unpaid leave for 7 years, and you are receiving salary with benefits, and for somehow you are sick. Well, I mean, who wouldn't go to the shopping center if you've applied? I'm not sure if this is incompetence. I think that this is corruption that is being perpetrated, perhaps collusion of some sort. This requires a thorough investigation, because there's no way a person can sit at home and do nothing for 7 years, and then we are told that that person is earning a salary, a full salary. Let's just hear this next session, and then we will close this one there. This is ridiculous. This is the incompetence that we obviously need to pay detailed attention to as we go to the ballots next year, 2024.
Trying to understand here. She's on sick leave for 7 years. She's still getting a salary and the full benefits, right?
That's correct.
So as as the union, and I'm supposing this is your member, what impressions does this give you?
The impression says that there's laxity on the side of management. The HR management of the department, the one that deals with issues of sick leave, including temporary incapacity leave, because we cannot fault the member when the member make a request or any employee make a request for temporary incapacity leave, then there is no decision.
Are you pushing management to act?
Look, obviously, remember, it is a concern that we've been raising, and we've got a paper trail of all submissions that have been made, including sick leave days that have been submitted. So it was the actual ball is in the hands of the employer to make a decision.
No, I mean you as a union. Pardon me, Ruben, for coming in there. I mean you as a union. Are you speaking to the employer to ensure that they move with speed here? It's
Absolutely.
been 7 years.
Whether they are speaking to the employer or not, that is neither here nor there, because unions are not decision makers. They are not the ones who are running the strategy of the department. The accounting officers and the MECs, if it's a provincial department, if it's a national department, it's the accounting officers and the ministers. So the unions are there because of Labor Relations Act to regulate relations, that a conducive working environment is created wherein there is conformance or compliance to the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. For an example, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act states categorically that an employee should work 5 consecutive hours, after which they are entitled to 1 uninterrupted hour's lunch, unless otherwise negotiated between employer and employee. Now, many employees do not know this, and this is where the union comes in and makes sure that after 5 hours of consecutive 5 worked hours, you get your uninterrupted lunch hour. Many employees get 30 minutes, and yet they are never compensated for that in terms of what the Act says. So the union is there for that. The union is there for abuse, for unfair, unprocedural dismissals, for unfair labor practices. So there's quite a lot of things that the union is there for. I'm not a big fan of a union at all. I think that they are useless. I think it's a money-making scheme. I think that they are completely toothless dogs, which are literally being managed by accounting officers to keep quiet. And how do the accounting officers do this? That they simply give them jobs and then they will keep quiet. It doesn't matter how atrocious is management's behavior. And a typical example is what we are discussing here right now, which further demonstrates the uselessness of the unions. In a country that has got more than 40% of youth unemployment, we should not be having unions at all. We should simply, I mean, for crying out loud, banks have unions, but they never go on strike. Why? You understand? So in the public service, you've got this unions that are supposed to play a certain role, but their role, and I know this because I've been in management, their role is limited. They don't make decisions. They can sit, for example, in interviews. They can sit in interview panels, but they don't do the shortlist. They don't do the interviews. They are just sitting there as observers. Even in this case, decisions are made by management, both middle, in fact, lower management, middle management, and senior management. Unions do not engage themselves with such issues unless there is an aggrieved member who lodged a grievance. In this case, this individual would not have lodged a grievance because they are a recipient of corrupt proceeds. And my view is that a forensic audit should be performed here to get to the bottom of this. Why is it that such a decision has not been made for this long? The people that could make this decision, for example, that should be interviewed here is a spokesperson of the MEC of that department, or the department is MEC themselves, not a union member, because a union is not a decision maker. The decision makers is the accounting officer, who should be asked. That's the person who should be asked, why have you not made that decision? But if you really want to get to the gist of this, bypass the accounting officer and go directly to the MEC. And you ask the MEC, is this not a wasteful and fruitless expenditure? Because it is. If a person has not set foot at work for 7 years, there is absolutely no justification why they should be receiving a salary. Okay, well, those are my views, guys. I think that sometimes in South Africa, we promote incompetence. This is complete incompetence all around. Of course, I excuse the unions because to me, you can't expect competence from a bunch of useless people. Okay? Just by design, unions are completely useless. Unions are a communist idea. They are there to be an irritation between the employer and employee. So you apply for a job and you get that job. Of course, they do seek to influence that process, that is unions, by bringing their own members. It's just like what the ANC is doing by appointing accounting officers and deploying useless individuals to be accounting officers. That is why our country is going to the dogs. Our country is going to the dogs precisely because of this. But as I've already said, there are exceptions to this rule. Unfortunately, those exceptions are far and few in between. There is always something to benefit for the premiers that appoints these people, the MECs that appoints these people. They appoint them to keep quiet, to overlook corrupt activities that take place. But if they had been appointing people based on their level of skill and education, believe you me, the corruption in South Africa would reduce to bare minimum. Why? Because a person who is competent, who has not been done any favors through affirmative action or cadre deployment, that person cares the least in terms of whether the MEC agrees with them or not. Imagine an engineer or a medical doctor or an auditor for that matter that knows their staff. Why would they care what the MEC thinks about it? They simply do their job. If the MEC is unhappy about that, they must just, or a minister, they must just go fly a kite. That's all there is to it. I would like to conclude this, but let me give this guy one more chance.
Yes.
That's the point that I'm raising, that we have made submissions on behalf of the member. The member is in pains of not getting a decision. Remember, this member requested even early retirement, meaning that the member is fully aware that the kind of illness that finds herself in is not the illness that she can continue with employment. But the employer is not making that decision. And that is where we are also concerned, because we know that the public service is depleted. We know that public service is operating in a skeletal state. Therefore, each and every individual is required to render a service to the public, which is the most needed service to the public.
So help me understand.
No, I'll end this over here. This is corruption. Corruption is where more than one person make a decision to dupe the state of its resources. This is nothing but corruption. Hence, I'm saying this requires an investigation. It needs not to be left the way it is. That MEC needs to be held accountable. And here's the other thing. Who's been auditing this department? This is my problem with auditors who are not doing their job. This is my problem, both internal as well as external. Who's been auditing this? It's very plausible that it's the auditors that have identified this, and perhaps, and in the absence of that information, I shouldn't be harsh on them, but the MEC of this department or the minister needs to be held to account. They need to lose their job with immediate effect. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Because you cannot have this scenario prevailing. If a person is not coming to work and this person is getting a salary and all the benefits and they are not working, what's going on here? Because this to me sounds like donation. That probably gets to be split somehow. Okay, let me not further speculate. Tell me what you think. But these are the things that irritate me with the so-called New South Africa, wherein People have lost all sense of sensibility, all sense of morals, all sense of ethics. It's a long story. I will not start it here, but it started when Rolihlahla Mandela kicked God out of schools by the legislations that he introduced. We need God back in our schools. That way, the people who leave our schools to go to universities and become professionals will know that earning a salary when you haven't worked is called theft. You are stealing. Okay, I'll leave it at that. You give me your views, what you think about it. Ciao, ciao.